Hey guys, what's up? This is me, Apple Biscuit. I'm actually here with Terror of the Jungle.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Real quick, we just want to make a quick video about some questions that people may have about Classic World of Warcraft. It's actually going to be coming out from the day of this recording. It's coming out tomorrow. So we want to go over some few questions that people may have about Classic WoW. First, we'll do a quick introduction of ourselves. If you didn't watch my last video, I'm Apple Biscuit. I've been playing the game since towards the end of Classic, and still playing the game now. Contrary to what other people may think, I actually enjoy Battle for Azeroth. I'm kind of a casual player, though. That being said, I am very excited for Classic WoW. I'm looking forward to playing it. Uh, Tara, do you want to talk a bit about your standpoint on the game, how long you've been playing, and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. I started playing in 2005. I was in middle school and I went over to a friend's house. I saw him playing it. I was like, I've never seen anything like this before. And uh, that next year, just after Christmas, I got my own version of the game. I've been playing it on and off ever since. Um, Classic WoW still holds a dear place in my heart because it was the first real MMO that I ever played. Um, as far as my BFA experience, obviously I was like super hyped. I thought it was gonna be like this big PvP expansion, and I don't think it really delivered on my expectations. And
That's fair.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fair, and that's what a lot of people are saying. But luckily we have Classic WoW to look forward to, and with that,
absolutely.
yeah, and with that, the first question I have written here is: will streamers be a problem in Classic WoW, or in other words, are they going to affect people's gameplay experience anyway? I know a lot of people have been complaining lately about streamers and how they're going to just take over entire servers and make everyone's ever make all the other people their slaves and just get free gold and free
hmm
gear and everything and I just want to ask you, you've been playing since vanilla WoW. Do you think this is going to be a problem? Is this something that people did this not occur back in vanilla? Because I remember even back then, you still had big time World of Warcraft players like Athena and Swifty, right? So, what do you think?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, it did absolutely did not happen. Back in the day, if you got a piece of gear or if you had gold, you held on to it. There was no way in hell, no matter who you were, that you were going to give your gear or your gold to anybody. So as far as the feeding, it just didn't happen. And you can think about it like this: you see Asmongold get a lot of stuff from people in BFA, uh, but that's BFA. Like the stuff is easy come, easy go, and it's real easy to give a piece of gear away because it's not as meaningful. Will somebody roll on an Obsidian Edge blade, for example, which is a really awesome two-hander from Molten Core, and decide that they want to loot trade it to Asmongold? I don't think that'll be as likely
Yeah,
as it would be in BFA because it's more meaningful,
yeah,
to get that blade.
yeah. I definitely agree, and I think that like it's the fact that in classic WoW, you actually need good gear to
hmm
experience content. Like to be able to even enter in some of those high end raids, you need to have the gear for it. And otherwise, like in Battle for Azeroth, you can see that same content by just going to LFR. So yeah, like your point
Right.
exactly that the fact that you actually really do need better gear, I think it's going to prevent people from just handing out gear to their favorite streamers all the time. Uh,
Exactly. Are you going to give 10 gold to Asmongold when that 10 gold is going to prevent you from getting your regular mount, which improves your gameplay so significantly? It's hard to imagine giving 10 gold to somebody when it's going to impair your player experience, your own player experience significantly. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Will there be people that do that? I'm sure there will be. But overall, I don't think the switching between gear is going to be as crazy as what we see with some of these streamers that get fed.
Yeah.
Asmongold can log on, go sit in Stormwind, and get like a couple 100,000 gold or some unique items just by sitting there.
Hmm.
I'm hesitant to believe that it's going to be at least to that extent. I think it'll probably happen, but not to the extent that it does in BFA.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
One worry I do have though is once AQ opens up. I don't know too much about AQ, but I think that there is some sort of uh, competition thing going there, right? Where you have to like turn in a bunch of resources.
Excuse me.
No problem. Don't die.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to turn a bunch of resources, and maybe I'm wrong, but there's some sort of thing where I don't know if people choose who's like a winner and get some sort of special amount, or if just the person turns in the most resources. But it seems like that's something that a streamer could definitely can game the system.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're talking about the Scarab Lord, the Scarab
Yes.
Lord achievement.
Yeah.
Um, that's something that has to be coordinated by a large group. And back in the day, what they would do is your guild leader or your main tank, which are basically the main people in your classic guild, would be prioritized for getting that achievement. You have to farm a whole bunch of materials. It can't be done solo. Is one of the pieces of content in Classic WoW that really can't be done solo. They will be getting the first Scarab Lord achievements because of how classic WoW guilds or vanilla WoW guilds operated back in the day, and I think they'll operate the same way.
Hmm.
Is that the group that you're playing with will funnel towards main tanks, and they will also funnel towards guild leaders or people take on responsibility. Those people get more than the others. So yeah, you're gonna have a lot of almost every streamer is probably gonna be a Scarab Lord if they even care about that. If they do, they'll make sure that they get Scarab Lord first. Scarab Lord's not a big deal. I don't know.
It's just
Everybody
a
makes a
mount
big deal of it.
in a title, right? A mount in a title
Yeah.
is that? Yeah, but I can see though too. It's like it's a mount that you can't get anywhere else. It'll be extremely rare mount,
Hmm.
and I can see maybe if you were planning on playing unfairly, which is the server that most of these streamers are gonna be playing on, and you're just some random Joe who wants to start his own guild. There's a very very low chance you'll probably get that mount because everyone's gonna be wanting to join Asmongold or Soda Poppin's guild. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the whole streamer server debate. It's it's obviously we're not all teenagers anymore, and we don't play WoW after school and um everything like that. The experience that you're going to experience in like classic WoW is going to be way different, and that's one of the ways. Um, I want to talk about just kind of like how there's pros and cons, right, to being on a streamer server.
Hmm.
The cons are kind of the thing that we just listed, is that there's going to be people walking around with gear and gold and things that were just gifted to them, which would absolutely not happen in Classic WoW. You don't just give gold to somebody for no reason.
Yeah, that'd be.
Uh,
I mean,
no
I would
gear.
love it if people gave me free gold, but yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen for you. And so there'll be people who are just, and the people around them. There's a lot of streamers going to Farolina, and all of them they'll have a definite advantage in terms of getting groups faster. Everybody wants to play with Esfond. Everybody wants to play with Asmongold. They're going to get groups super fast. People will be willing to carry them through content. People will be willing to give them gold, hand over gear for sure. That's a negative thing. But some of the positives, because there are positives. What do you think some of the positives might be?
Well, one thing I always keep thinking I think is really cool is that because streamers are on that server, you're always going to be having events and like fun, in like memorable moments. It's like
Hmm.
watching the Truman Show. It's like everything that's going on in that server is going to be recorded in from some perspective. Like
Hmm.
even when you're at work or if you're like not if you can't play Classic WoW at the time, you can just like hop on Twitch and just see what's going on your server by clicking on one of the streamers. So I think that's kind of a cool thing to know of like your server is kind of like always in the limelight. And there's always
Yeah.
and because of that, there was always gonna be something interesting happening, whether it's some event that the streamers put on or even just drama because people love drama. If some huge thing happens because one group starts going around ganking a streamer or something like that, like that's exciting content, you know?
Yeah. I love that content too. And that's part of the reason that, like, honestly, we might have a different opinion on this, but I think BFA is dead lest think about what Asmongold does for streamer content. It's literally like transmog competitions or um, viewer raids, or he just kind of like he involves people in the whole process, right? So that keeps BFA alive. And I was on the original classic beta, which was like in June or July, I think.
Yeah.
And they capped us out right at like initially level 30 initial, and then they raised it to like level 40. You saw a stark decline in the number of people that were logging on. The servers were almost completely dead in that situation. And I know the beta is like a completely different situation, but what caused people to log on? You know, eventually somebody's going to reach BIS in Classic WoW, and then what else is there to do?
Mm-hmm.
That streamer content could fuel more engagement with your server. If you have a streamer on your server, there's a bunch of shenanigans going on. Um, you'll log on to join in, even if you've already ran through the game, because it is possible still in Classic WoW to be at the top of your game and really have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So that's a positive, I think, as far as streamer servers go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And so I think, for people who are worrying about, oh, I want to plan fairly and now the streamers are there, or if the streamer is, because I heard there's some talk that they may end up moving to a different server because Fairlane is so populated right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think, don't worry about it too much. Yeah, it'll change the experience, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a bad experience, It'll just be different. And you can always just make, multiple characters on different servers to have those different experiences, and that just will add more game time for you. So yeah.
Yeah, Classic WoW can actually last forever.
Yeah.
People have been playing Classic private servers for ever since it went from Classic to BC. People have been playing it and they've been entertained by it, and maybe just having streamers is a little bit of extra flavor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. Okay, so
Wait, so where are you going, Apple?
I'm actually gonna be playing on Alliance on Mancrick, which is a normal East Coast server. Normal as in
Okay,
PvE server. Yeah.
and no streamers probably expected on Mancrick.
No, yeah, I highly doubt it, especially on Alliance side. Right now, actually, like if you look at some of I think on MMO Champion, they did a survey of the faction balances and populations of each server, and Mancrack looks like it's like 75% Horde. So
Oh boy,
it'll be interesting.
I
Luckily,
guess it doesn't matter. I guess if you're not,
yeah, it doesn't really matter if it's on a PvE server, but we'll see. We'll see how that
yeah,
goes.
yeah, okay, cool.
So the next question is: Are quest helpers is quest helper going against classic WoW nature? Quest helper, I'm talking like the quest helper add-on that people have been using in the WoW Classic beta.
Mhm.
It kind of imitates the quest helper feature that's in retail WoW right now. Should it be removed from the game, since LFG Finder add-on was also removed from the game? So if anyone who's listening to this doesn't know, there was an add-on that someone made that basically works as a looking for group finder tool, kind of like the pre-made group finder in Battle for Azeroth, where you can just pull up a window, type in what kind of dungeon you want to do, and just like press enter dungeon, and it would just queue you up in a system and find people that would be interested in doing that dungeon and group you up automatically. And recently Blizzard said that goes against the nature of Classic WoW, and they're going to be taking steps to significantly remove the functionality of that add-on. But then there's also the question of, there's the quest helper add-on that tells you basically where you're supposed to go for quests and where to kill things, and people think that maybe go against Classic WoW as well. So what do you think about that, Tara?
I'm against it. Obviously, this is something that they don't necessarily want to tackle. I think that if there was a big issue with them with the Quest Helper add-on, they would have already came out against it or something like that. So it's going to be in the game. How that affects gameplay, I personally want you to be trying to quest, and I want you to have like a search window up on the next screen. And
Yeah.
I want you to be fumbling through trying to figure out exactly what you need to do. I do not want them on the same screen. Because back in the day we used Thoughtbot, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we had Thought, and back in the day actually we only had one monitor.
Yeah.
So nowadays everybody has two monitors, right?
Yeah.
So you Alt Tab, you go to Thoughtbot, you look it up, and you just sink your time into trying to figure out what the hell to do. Now, if you actually read the quest and you're smart enough to kind of like put all the pieces together, you can actually just read the quest log a lot of times and figure out where to go. That's what I want to happen, but that's not going to happen. That questy helper is here to stay.
Yeah, I think so too. And I actually may have a different opinion. I actually do like the Quest Helper add-on. I remember using a Quest Helper add-on back when I was first started playing and I that was like the first thing I ever installed. Whenever I showed my friends WoW, I'd be like, okay, first thing you do, go to this website, get this Quest Helper add-on because it saves you so much time. That being said, I do understand why people would want it removed because the reason Blizzard said they're going to be removing the LFG finder was because they said that they want add-ons that only, I think it's something along the lines of add-ons that don't add additional information, just show the already existing information in the game in a different way. Like that's the whole entire point of add-ons. It shouldn't be like giving you new abilities or new tools or new information. It should just be rearranging the information that you already have from the game. And so having an add-on tell you something that the game isn't telling you, like where Mancrick's wife is, yeah, I think that does kind of go against it. But at the same time, it's hard for me to complain because I really do like using that add-on, and I mean I'm going to be using it for sure whenever WoW Classic comes out. So
Yeah, I won't be using it.
you won't be.
I want to be thoroughly confused. Like I want to go on that. You guys, if you're on Alliance, you know that one quest chain where you at the end you get the seal of Ren, which is like a really good ring for your level,
Mm-hmm.
and it just drags you all across the Eastern Kingdoms, and it's such a pain. And it's such a pain. You don't know where everybody is, and you're just sitting there, just like, where is this guy? Um, Part of that is people don't think about this often, but when you're stuck on a quest in Classic WoW back in like 2005, you would ask in general, and this goes back to the LFG thing because LFG would make it to where you're not asking things in chat. But if you're stuck in 2005 and you don't want to go to Thoughtbot, you'll ask in general, "Hey, where do I go for this and that?" People
Mm-hmm.
are like, "Oh, I'm on that too. You go here and there." They'll tell you where to go. That questy add-on removes social, because how fun is it to be lost with one other person? Like you and this dude are just like, I don't know what the hell to do, and where do we go? And it's like, I don't know either. And you guys are just sitting there, just wondering where you're gonna go.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of social interaction, and it's real fun. You can make friends that way,
Yeah,
not knowing
that's
what to
true.
do.
I remember I made a friend like that leveling up in, I think it was called Feralis. Is that the name of the area?
Something like that. Feral ass or Feralis. I don't
Yeah. I
know.
remember being there and like no idea what I was doing, running into some other random alliance dude and being like, hey, let's do these quests together because I don't know where I'm going. He didn't know where he was going. And yeah, you're right. That does help. And sometimes it's kind of nice to add some friction to the game where it may be harder to do something by yourself than with other people,
Hmm.
So I
Exactly.
don't know. At the same time, though, like you say, everyone has two monitors now. Like, how much harder is it to use Thoughtbot compared to just using the Quest Helper add-on? Especially if you have like a coordinates add-on your computer add-on in WoW Classic. It's like it's to me, it's
Right.
not like that big of a deal. Like the Quest Helper add-on isn't huge. It's not like the LFG Finder add-on level of egregious. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I want mom to drop me off at school and tell me to go make some friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's my classic experience. Go make some friends. And there isn't an arrow that says, "Oh, this person is going to be a really good friend" or something like that. It just happens organically. And obviously, by now, everybody can probably tell that I'm like a purist about it. Um, but no, no add-ons for me. And while everybody else is moving quickly through the content because they have an arrow pointing them where to go,
Mm-hmm.
as much as I've played, I can't remember everything. I'm just going to be sitting there confused,
Yeah.
and I'll be happy.
Yeah, that's
So.
fair, and I agree. I agree with that because I mean that's kind of my thoughts on. Well, what are your thoughts on deadly boss mods and weak auras in classic WoW?
That was a requirement for us. Like we wouldn't be allowed into the raid if we didn't have it, and that was even back in the day.
Yeah,
So, yeah, we have to have it.
yeah,
I, I I couldn't imagine. I mean, I could imagine doing it without it, but it's just something that is actually the classic WoW experience. We all had DBM. We all had weak auras. Um,
yeah. And
so
that's true.
I'm okay with.
I remember using those too. I guess my overall point about I don't like add-ons like that that basically tell you everything about the boss fight and tell you what to do and where to go and stuff like that. I feel like I would love it, even though if in retail WoW, I'd love it if they just said, you know what, you can't use deadly boss mods and weak auras anymore. Obviously, they would have to change up the boss fights because the boss fights have gotten so much more complicated because people
Mhm.
have deadly boss mods. But I guess that's a whole other discussion we don't have to talk about. So, yeah,
Right. Yeah. Wouldn't it be crazy if like there was absolutely no add-ons?
I would love it.
You just had to man it out in classic with your regular bars and no cast bars on the mobs and everything like that. Um,
It sounds
that would be
horrible, but at the
tough.
same time, like they would then, design the game with that in mind, and it wouldn't be as bad as what people may think it would be.
Exactly. Don't they design the game now basically knowing that people are going to have add-ons?
Yeah,
It's like their game exists in tandem with these other utilities. They're not making a game full stop. But even in classic WoW, the game wasn't played full stop. We had
true.
DVM and everything like that, and I don't begrudge them for creating like add-ons like DBM and weak auras, and for Blizzard allowing that to exist because oh my gosh, no, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that because that's how LFG came on. So I'm not gonna.
Don't want to start that.
I'm
Okay.
rolling that back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Third question we have: is it a good or bad thing that population size on servers is going to be higher on Classic WoW than it was back in Vanilla? So, for those of you who don't know, one of the blue posts that Blizzard made a few days ago, they said that a medium population realm was going to be um, much bigger than a medium population realm was back in vanilla WoW. So basically, the server capacities are higher now than they were back then. Is that a big deal? Like, to me, it seems like it's kind of a huge thing to just kind of like, oh, by the way, like these server capacities are much higher because there are things like, world bosses that now with more people, the items that drop from those world bosses are going to be more rare. So is that something that people should be worrying about, Tara?
Wow. Well, I really hadn't thought about it like that. That makes a lot of sense. Um, You know what people in this conversation, this is something that's kind of trotted out. People point to Nestorius, the private classic server realm that had like a 10,000 population cap. People tended to enjoy themselves regardless that there was like so many people on each side. Will it replicate a classic experience if say it's increased by like 1,000 or 2,000? Probably not. Probably not. You want to be sitting in trade and not getting a group for like an hour. And then when you get there, somebody quits. And then you have to send somebody back to Ironforge to go to trade again. And then that person like realizes that this group already failed once. Maybe I don't want to go with this group. But they keep the charade up for a little bit, and then they quit again, and you just have to go back to Ironforge, and eventually it's time for bed, and you didn't get anything done that day.
Oh
Um,
man, I'm
that's
laughing to stop from
classic.
crying. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's true.
I don't know. More people, right? More people. The economy gets affected. Obviously, the finding groups gets easier. Um, but then you obviously have the question as to whether if I increase the cap, can I maintain a healthy population? Let's allow more people on initially, so that it might stabilize back down to a classic or a vanilla WoW level.
Yeah,
So
that's a great
I can see it
point.
go both ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that what we're seeing Blizzard doing of increasing the server capacity and kind of, rolling out these servers a little by little, whenever they announced the server list, and so many people were freaking out. They were like, "Oh my gosh, Blizzard doesn't believe in classic WoW. There's like 5 servers. This is such a joke."
Hmm.
But I think it was all planned out. Like they've been releasing new servers throughout the time before classic WoW launches, and I think this is something that they learned from releasing, the original vanilla WoW, and then seeing how many dead servers you have now in retail WoW. They're
Hmm.
taking those lessons that they learned and they're trying to implement it here, where they're just putting them out slowly, being very conservative, having a high capacity. So that way, once the dust settles, we will have a bunch of very healthy, populated servers. So yeah, I think that's a good point. I think there's definitely more pros than cons for a high capacity.
Yeah, they have a mind for this. Like it's already been done, so the experience in the end ought to be better.
Hmm.
So they're thinking about the future, and they okay. So all of this will go into probably I think our next topic we're discussing. Um, the layers and everything, increased pop cap, everything like that. Blizzard, Omar and Brian and everybody part of the Blizzard team, their goal is to maintain a community that's going to be stuck together. Like I want to run across um, X Ninja X in Elwyn Forest, and I want to see him when I'm later in Stranglethorn Vale, and I want to remember that that's that guy who traded me a bag,
Yeah.
or something like that. Now, if it gets to the point where servers die and they offer free realm transfers, maybe X Ninja X goes to another server, or maybe we have a bunch of strangers that come in that I don't remember playing with. Uh, I really believe that their focus is on maintaining that community. I don't think every server is going to be. You still have a risk. Not every server is going to maintain the same player population. People are going to be moving around, and that's a noted contingency that they said during their interview with on Classic Cast with Esfond and everybody. They
Hmm.
said that we're trying to keep that community together. I think that some servers you choose. I mean, think about this. This is why they're choosing these. People want to go. This is a consensus on Reddit, at least. They want to go to the high pop servers, so that when the expected decline in population comes along, they don't enter into a situation where we're trying to transfer or close down servers. They're going to be with the people that they started to play with.
Yeah.
Um, that's why no one in their right mind is going to go to a low pop server.
Yeah.
Like no one's going to go there. They don't want to be into that dead economy, that dead raid scene, all that. They're going to stuff themselves on there, and if there's a queue, they'll offer incentives to get people off of that server. And if you take it, you might end up on a dead server.
Yeah.
Sorry to say. It's a game, we don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing, especially for classic WoW. In retail, if you're on a dead server nowadays, it doesn't matter that much because of all the cross realm
Hmm.
grouping with dungeons and raids and all this stuff. Unless you're doing some mythic raiding content, it really doesn't matter what server you're on. But in classic WoW, the server means everything, and so you see people making, have you seen those? There are people making hype videos for their server on YouTube. Like people are
Yeah.
campaigning to get people to play on their server. Like it is such a huge part of classic WoW, and so I don't know. I totally get it. And I've been, I made a character originally on Faralina, then all the streamers moved to Faralina. Then I had friends who were like, I don't know if I want to play on Faralina anymore. And it's been like a huge debacle where the past week we've just been like fighting back and forth on what server we all want to play on. Because you're right, it is such a big deal, and nobody wants to be on a dead server. So
No, absolutely not. If you want to ruin your experience, you can go on a dead server, and it'll be like playing on a private server that's dead because all of them are dead right now.
Really?
And it's not classic. Yeah. I hypothetically played on Elysium, and it's such an empty world, and there's no real flavor to it like you would see in a regular classic server. I do recommend make the best decision for you. Do not end up on a dead server.
Hmm. That's actually interesting as a little tangent there that all the private servers were dead. I would assume that even with Classic WoW coming out, there'd be people who just didn't want to pay for World of Warcraft, so they'd still play on the classic server. You know what I mean? But
EU clap. EU clap. No, we can all afford $15 a month for a quality product. So if you EU guys want to stay on classic or private servers, go ahead. That's okay. Unless if you
yeah,
speak English, go ahead and come on our server here.
yeah.
We can afford the $15. Sorry, I'm sorry to say that, but like,
Yeah, no,
come on, man. It's 50 cents a day. It's 50 cents a day. Go walk around your street with, and try to get take a cup out there with you and see if you can get 50 cents a day. And if you can, then you've already played for your classic subscription. So good luck.
yeah, that's a fair point. Well, that'll be interesting. I also thought too that once Classic WoW does come out, that I think that's when Blizzard's going to really start putting down the hammer on these private servers. Because now they have a financial benefit of closing those private servers, because then it just gets people to say, well, if I can't play on the private server, I guess I'm going to have to just play on the WoW Classic server and pay Blizzard. You know what I mean? So I'm very interested to
No
see
one,
how
no
that's going
one
to
in their
play
right
out.
mind would want to play on a private server when you have such a complete finished product like Classic WoW. And also, I think that there's a big difference here, because what most of the private servers are going to now is they're one step ahead of Blizzard in releasing a TBC like server.
Hmm.
So all of them are moving into TBC. If you look it up, um, some people are TBC boys. They don't care for classic because when they started, they played TBC. They have classic in their mind, or they have TBC in their mind like we have classic in our mind.
Yeah.
And these TBC servers are already active. So if you want to play TBC, there's private servers out there for you. And I think that'd probably be the biggest draw away. Whether Blizzard should would start cracking down on them, I don't even see that as. I think so many people will be actually just paying the $15 that it won't be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
what I think. It could
I
be.
agree too.
We'll see.
And I think the
We'll
fact
see.
that it's $15 a month and you don't have to pay for a box or anything like that. Like, we obviously don't know what's going to happen if they decide to release the Burning Crusade, if they're going to make us pay an extra fee there. But at least for now, to play Classic
Hmm.
WoW, it's just the $15 a month. There's no extra box you have to buy with that. So it's a pretty good deal.
Right. I think so.
And earlier you were talking a bit about layering, and I don't know if we can talk a little bit about how layering will affect the vanilla WoW experience. Layering, for those who don't know, is like sharding, but except instead of having you phase over to a different server, you're just getting phased into a different layer of the same server. So say like there's server Mankrik, there's 5 layers. Each of those layers consists of people only on the Mankrik server. Um, but you can only see and interact with people who are on your layer. If you have a friend who's on a different layer, you can invite them to your group and they'll get phased into your layer. But these layers are all still separated by server. And this is something that Blizzard's doing in order to prevent having a ton of people in the starting zone and having it lag you out, or running around trying to find an undead zombie to kill for 2 hours. So I personally think that it's a necessary evil. I understand that people wish that layering wasn't there. They want the game to just crash and burn whenever a bunch of people get online. But I understand from Blizzard's perspective, they want to make money, and a lot of people who are casual are going to take off time, are excited to play, or people who are going to take off time for work they want to be able to jump in day one and play the game. And I can't imagine how frustrating it would be to get in on launch day and not be able to play the game. And some of those people who won't be able to play the game on launch day might say, "Wow, this is a really crappy experience," and may leave and never come back. So I get why Blizzard's
Mhm.
doing it, and I think that as long as they keep it in phase one, it won't be a huge deal. But what do you think, Dare?
Well, they said in like I said, S Fond, Stay Safe, all those people had Omar and Brian, which are the lead developers on WoW Classic. They said full stop. There will be no layering in phase two, and we might even stop it in the first phase. Like we might just remove layering completely in the first phase. Um, so they can't go back on that, right? I guess they could, but I just don't see them wanting to deal
Oh yeah,
with that type of thing. I mean, come on, with the whole, do
especially with
you
the
have enough
classic community.
phones? You think you do, but you don't. Do we need another meme? Blizzard does not need another meme.
No.
So they will end layering. Uh, just see, I believe that they will because they can't do anything but end layering. Layering will be fine. I mean, you want to be able to log in and play the game, right?
Mm.
Even if okay, there's two things. There's two things. One, how do you remove layering on a streamer server where there's 50,000 people constantly trying to log in? That's a question for you.
How many people? Say it again.
Say there's 50,000 people trying to log in to Fairlina where all the streamers are going.
Yeah.
How do you remove layering on that server?
I mean, I don't know. I think there comes to a certain point where they say, you know what, we're taking out layering, but if it breaks, it breaks. Ideally too, if they wait long enough. I mean, even on Fairlane where it's a ton of people, there's not gonna be 50,000 people in the starting zone after 2 months. I don't think. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I don't. I definitely don't think there'll be 50,000 people in the starting zone. Um, I'll tell you a small anecdote, and stop me if I go on too long about this.
Go ahead.
I was in the original beta, and they had basically what we all believed. The reason we were there was that we were going to test the new layering function. Early on, when we started talking about it, we're like, layering is sharding, layering is sharding. We know that you're telling us layering, but it's really sharding. Um, some of us bought onto that, and we're like, okay, we'll all log on. The first few days were crazy, tons of people. But one of the things that you notice about that whole layering system is that it resembled sharding so much because I could leave Northshire and walk into Elwyn Forest and I would be layered out.
Hmm.
Or I could walk from Elwyn Forest to Stormwind and I would be layered out. And when a server shifts, right? Everybody who's
Yeah.
on Alliance knows that barrier between Stormwind and Elwyn Forest where everybody behind you disappears when you walk through it.
Mm-hmm.
That was existent on the first beta, the first closed beta that we did. Uh, Even to the extent that I was walking through uh, some place on the Night Elf area. I think it was Ashenvale, and the cap was 40, but I saw a level 46 ride right past me, and the level 46 was on a PVE server,
So
and
he was on a different server than you, and you saw him.
yeah, the cap was 40, right? But I saw a level 46 ride right past me, and I was like, "What is this?"
Well,
Well, the
that might
truth
be a
that
weird beta thing, though. You think, or because I mean,
well,
if
the
it's on a
only
different server, I thought the whole point of the layering was that you're still not going to be connecting with people on other servers.
yeah, and that's exactly my point. Like
Yeah.
I was seeing people that had a higher level cap. I think with the friends and family thing run through my server. I was
Mm-hmm.
seeing people on PVE server, the PVE version of the beta. I was seeing them where you couldn't attack them and they couldn't attack you because you just all of a sudden are on a PVE server.
Mm-hmm.
I was seeing a lot of stuff like that in the first beta. So I think that layering technology is very closely related to the sharding
I see what you're
technology,
saying. Yeah.
and I think that there might be some point of contention there where they're not really mentioning that you might not notice it, but if you do, you know it's sharding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know it's sharding and not layering.
Yeah.
And that's like a tinfoil hat. Everybody put on your tinfoil hats. Like, that's just my experience.
Well,
I hope
yeah,
that's not the case.
I don't think it's crazy to believe like layering is a version of sharding where layering is intended to just be sharding of the same server and not of multiple servers, and so yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, oh my gosh, can you imagine what people would do if all of a sudden they start seeing people in other servers on their server, just like sharding into their server all of a sudden? People would,
Impossible. Impossible. Either that or they'll pretend like they're a part of their server. Because the cap's so high you don't know everybody.
yeah,
You take the uh Apple Biscuit Kel'Thuzad or the Terror of the Jungle Storm Scale. You cut the Storm Scale off, you cut the Kel'Thuzad off, you look like somebody that might be on my server. I wouldn't know the difference. And I don't
oh
know.
wow,
It's such a yeah, exactly. It's like a crazy thing that you can think about.
yeah.
Maybe the technology is not there for it, or maybe
That's a
they're just
tinfoil hat thing, but if that were true, that would be freaking crazy. That would be worse than any other. That would be the meme of the century for Blizzard. But
yeah. If
I
they
don't
do
think that's
that,
gonna happen. But
somebody is going to know about it.
yeah,
If they think they can get away with it, uh, I can't see how they would think they would be able to get away with
no,
something
no,
like
there's
that.
no way.
So
No,
yeah.
but but overall though, you think that layering is fine for phase one. You don't think it's that big of a deal, or
I think because of Blizzard as a business and because of keeping a community of players together, they can't start out releasing 40 realms. So, because everybody would just be broken up as the player population leaves, we'd have
mm-hmm.
low population servers. That doing it like this, because we anticipate people to leave, which they didn't anticipate when they first released the game, but we do anticipate it now. That layering is kind of a necessary evil, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
agree. And I and I say this against me for phase one, but there's always that there was that worry until recently, like in that Q&A that you mentioned on Classic Cast with SFan and Stay Safe and all them, where people were worrying that layering would come back for certain events like the opening of the gates of AQ. People
mhm.
always thought, oh my gosh, they're of course gonna use layering because that's gonna be such like a mess of all these people in one server. But they said on there that they were not going to use layering, so I'm very hopeful that they're gonna figure out a way, or if anything, just let it play out the way a lot of people want, which is just let the servers crash and burn when the gates
Mhm.
open up, because that's part of the classic experience. It's kind of fun sometimes to see there's so many people in one spot that you lag out. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think that's kind of funny. You know?
No, that's awesome. That
Yeah.
means that's us, the players, sticking it to Blizzard, saying that like we're all here together on this, and you can't handle it, basically. So it's raising your fist up in the air against Blizzard, saying you can't handle us. So it's definitely a positive experience to lag out like that.
Yeah.
As frustrating as it can be sometimes, it's nice to see because then you have a realization that there's so many people involved and there's so many people playing this game that the technical problems that need to be solved cannot be solved by modern technology, according to Blizzard.
Yeah.
So that's something nice to see.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yep.
Okay, so the last question we have is about scheduled release of content. What does that mean for casual players, and what does that mean for hardcore players? So when I say scheduled release of content, I'm talking about the different phases that Blizzard is going to use to roll out the uh, I don't know how you say it, gameplay. No, the content of the game out. So obviously they're not going to be releasing every piece of content for Classic WoW on day one. Like they're not going to be releasing the Naxxramas raid, which was the last raid of Vanilla WoW on day one. They're doing that in the last phase, and there are 6 different phases that they're going to be rolling out content in. And the reason why we keep talking about layering and why it's important for it to be removed before phase 2 is because phase 2 is whenever the world bosses get added into the game. And obviously, if you have world bosses and you have layering, then that means you would technically have the same, the same world boss on multiple layers. So people on the same server can be farming the same world boss at the same time and get multiple pieces of loot. And so that would cause a huge thing. But in general, what are your thoughts on phasing? On not phasing on the phases of content. I personally, as a casual player, I don't even really know too much about the content to understand why it's important to have 6 phases instead of 3. I know originally they talked about how they're gonna have 3 phases of content, and everyone flipped their lid, and they decided to make it 6 instead. But does this matter to me if I'm a casual player?
Actually, this is the best situation for you as a casual player.
Awesome.
The phasing of content, extending the amount of time it takes between content releases is the best possible thing for a casual player because it moves so slow. Why did people say they didn't want 3 phases? Because they wanted it to move slow. In today's gaming sphere, everybody wants to rush to the end. I want to level the fastest. I want to down the boss first. I want to get all the gear super quickly. Back in the day, all you were thinking about was, I want to get the best gear. I want to down the bosses. There wasn't really a time that was associated with that. And by phasing the content out like they're doing, that gives casual players the time to experience WoW Classic and to also experience all the different phases of WoW Classic's original launch throughout a longer period of time. So it's good. It's good for Classic players.
Mm-hmm. But isn't this like time gating though? Don't people hate time gating? I like the whole one of the complaints people have of retail WoW is that Blizzard's always telling them, no, you can't do this yet. Come back in 2 weeks, and they kind of gently, little by little, give people content and forcing them to stop with these time gates. How is this different?
Time gating in BFA versus time gating in a Classic. It's just not the same. Because in one of your previous videos, you mentioned how when you're playing a game that's not BFA, or when you're playing BFA, you feel like if I play it now before the patch, then nothing matters. That type of time gating is bad. Classic WoW will not have that type of time gating because everything that you do in each of the phases, there's 6 phases of Classic, are going to be meaningful. So the time gating you're experiencing in retail is not the time gating that's happening right now. The time gating that's happening in Classic is a slow content release, which should make it better for people. It's a stopgap for these people that have 18 hours a day to play.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 18 hours a day to play, you are the small minority. I'm sure we, even us two, as much as we used to play back in back in high school, that we never got to a point where we were completely geared out, right?
Yeah.
Like, even though I played a lot, we weren't completely geared out at any point in time. But there are people who do that, and then those are the people, that vocal minority, that talk about time gating. Phasing in Classic is good. It should last, I hope, 2 years.
Really?
2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 years, absolutely.
I personally would love that too, but there's some stuff, the Arathi Basin, the Battlegrounds Arathi Basin doesn't even come out till phase 4, which is pretty crazy.
You have plenty of time to gear up and figure out what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's what I say about that.
Yeah, I think I like it too. I mean, the fact that you're right. In retail WoW, whenever something new comes out, there's so much catch-up gear and stuff, and they boost the base item level for world quests and normal dungeons that that last patch becomes totally invalidated. And it seems like in Classic WoW, even once the next raid after Molten Core comes out, people will still be running Molten Core. I'm assuming people will still be running Molten Core up until the last days even when next Realms comes out. I wouldn't say the last days of Classic WoW, because if Burning Crusade is coming out, I'm not sure people are going to want to spend time getting a 40-man group for Ragnaros. But I mean, even once next Rams comes out, I'm assuming there's still a reason to do Molten Core, right? Like, you can't just jump into Nax Ramus.
Well, they're 40-man raids, right? So you have 35 extremely strong players, and you have 5 weak players. The deal about Classic, when you have a 40-man raid cap, is that you have so much slack there that you could, within 40 people, you could have 5 stragglers.
Yeah.
Or even maybe you're my friend, I want to carry you into Nax content. We already have all the gear, or we have almost all the gear we need. I could carry you in there. With the large raid cap, it's a possibility that you could skip content if you're cool. But if you're a casual player and you're not cool, not well known or anything like that, no one's gonna like just take you in there for free.
Yeah.
There is an opportunity to skip content like that, but it's gonna be few and far between for most people.
Okay, that makes sense.
You're gonna want your Obsidian Edge Blade. You're gonna want to go through and get, when all these other things come out, you're going to want to experience the raid, and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to do it with you, I think. Content won't die like it does in BFA.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think the same thing, that the phases are a good thing. As someone who's casual, I think that I don't have a problem with them phasing out content, because the chance of me getting to the end of the phase and being like, well, okay, I'm done, I'm ready for the new thing. Even if that does happen, like I said, I do enjoy Battle for Azeroth, and so for me, this is kind of a win-win situation where I'll play Classic WoW. If I ever get bored, I'll play BFA. Then whenever I get bored of BFA, I switch back to Classic. And, so often recently in the past 2 or 3 years, I just let my subscription lapse out once I'm done with content in BFA, because I'm like, there's nothing to do. I could gear up alts, but it feels pointless right now because the patch comes out in like 2 months. But now with Classic WoW as well, I'm definitely going to be looking into getting the 6-month subscription and just keeping my sub up all the time, because I'm expecting on having something to do, whether it's in Classic WoW or BFA. So I think this is a win-win situation.
Yeah, and I do hear a lot of people saying, like, okay, if I'm done in Classic WoW, I'm going to go hop over to BFA. But there's so much to do on Classic WoW.
That's true. People keep saying that like they're just gonna casually get to level 60 and do Molten Core and get all the gear. Like, I mean, what am I gonna do once I'm done? It's like, wait, what?
Casually level your professions. Casually do the 3-hour quest chain for professions or your class gear. Just casually spend a whole bunch of time, basically. Yeah. I could see you losing attention on it, but if you want to play Classic to the core, you're going to have so much to do. And there's even the economy part of it. People don't even think about it. You need a whole lot of gold. And you're going to need to go out and farm things. And although there weren't achievements in Classic WoW, some of the things, there were prestigious things that took months to accomplish. And if you like prestige, and in BFA, it's all about mounts, In Classic WoW, there was the Winter Spring Tiger, and you had to farm that out, and it took a long time. So if you're looking for prestige in Classic WoW, it's going to be a lot more meaningful for you to get the Winter Spring Tiger than it is for you to get Gmod from, from Jaina. So it just depends on your player type.
Yeah.
So...
Cool. Well, those are the questions we had for you today, guys. If there's any other questions you guys may have, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. We'll definitely check them out. Maybe we'll get to them in another video in the future. Again, this is Apple Biscuit. Tara, do you want to talk about your Twitch channel when you stream, stuff like that?
Oh yeah, I stream. I streamed during the Classic beta. I expect to stream once Classic really starts to ramp up again. Don't really have any interest in streaming any other game, so we've just been in the waiting period. There's not many VODs on my channel right now because there's only one game that I want to play.
And do you know if you're going to have a schedule once Vanilla WoW, Classic WoW comes out? Or
Not yet. I do have a lot of things going on, I guess, for like the first 3 weeks after it releases. But I will definitely keep you posted, and we'll probably talk on this channel as well about that.
Cool. Awesome. And with that, that is it. Thanks again, everyone. Like I said, feel free to leave a comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you're interested in more content from us, and give us a like as well if you didn't like it. Tell us why you didn't like it and what we can do to improve. Like we said, this is kind of new for me personally, so I'm definitely interested in becoming a better YouTuber, I guess I want to call it. And yeah, that's it. Have a good one.